Good afternoon.
Hey Brian, how are you?
Good. So FYI, this stream is now live on Facebook and on the city's website.
Okay.
And typically what I do is make the staff liaison like you, the co-host.
Mm-hmm.
So you have full control over the meeting, and I've already turned on screen sharing in case any of you need to do that.
Thank you.
But otherwise, the communications department just lurks in the background unless you need assistance.
Okay, that's pretty easy then.
Do you do any public comment?
No.
No. Okay.
That I've seen before.
One thing to, if somebody joins, because they'll see this out there, just watch the attendee list and see if anyone's raised their hand.
Okay.
I can certainly help if you need help enabling their microphones. But the webinar is different from a Zoom meeting in that the panelists are in one place, the attendees are in another.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yep.
Hi, Daniel.
Margaret. Hi.
Hi.
I was getting some stuff together. Serena. I was like, that's me. I'm already here. That doesn't make any sense. But it looks like Olivia. I wonder. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so just so you all know, so this is like brand new for me. But like this, it only should happen, honestly. This might even be, no, we may have one more potentially meeting where people will need to will need to kind of meet like this. And here we are. There's Kennedy.
Why do we need to meet like this?
Great question. The answer is bureaucracy. It is, it just, I guess because like we are technically like a public board. And so like in the way that city council meetings are public, and people like are able to see who's attending, or they see like what's going on, like in the inner workings of the government. This is like us.
Were our meetings public prior to the pandemic?
They were, they weren't like, so I took over youth council and I didn't know that they were supposed to be public. And so I never made them public or anything. And then when we were reaching out, Gretchen was like, oh, I never knew they were supposed to be public either. And so it was just kind of like a on and on of like no one knowing that these were supposed to be public meetings. And then here we are.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with like public meeting law because of like my work with the school board. And it's so funny because I was literally sitting in a FOIA training, which is the Freedom of Information Act training, and it pertains to open meetings yesterday. And we're talking about how meetings need to like have notice, be public, like have like meet all these requirements. And it never crossed my mind that like technically youth council is a public board, and therefore it has to follow all that stuff. And so like in theory, someone could like complain to the state of Virginia that we weren't being public and like have to pay like a couple $1,000 like Charlottesville would. So that's hilarious.
Yeah. New information every day, honestly. And I don't know, I'd like, we'll need to look into more of like what the laws are surrounding minors in like public meetings, and kind of, I don't know if you know, Kennedy, if there's anything that changes when like you have a group or a board of students that are under 18.
I don't think so, because this isn't school, like it's like completely outside of school. So like their participation in this is just as citizens. But I'm not sure. I can ask like when I'm not busy, like ask my boss, because I feel like she would know. We were talking about kids getting videotaped at school meetings.
Right.
Which they are, like when they do presentations to the school board, those are on the internet for anyone to go watch. So I don't think that it's an issue, but I can ask because they'll know.
That'd be helpful. I
mean,
mean,
expert.
Yeah, I think at most we'd have to do this maybe one more time if we had like final discussions before we present it to the city council. But you know, and then we're gonna go into summer break, so I can kind of get into the nitty gritty of what goes on then.
And then hopefully in the fall it'll be in person.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also actually like Brian was telling me that like at some point, like if we were to have another meeting or like something like that, have to like post it on a public board. It has to be
you have to give 3 days notice.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure of public meetings.
Yeah.
And if it's a specialty meeting, it just has to be like the term reasonable. Like if it's like a pop-up meeting, it has to have like a reasonable notice.
That's such a lawyer word.
Yeah, it is. I was emailing an attorney the other day and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure XYZ. And I was like, I know lawyers hate that word. So I'm telling you this and I'm going to figure out if I'm right. Yeah. All right. So do you have anything else, Daniel?
No, just that like this is there's no attendees right now, so it's just us, but just know I'll let you know if there's attendees that pop up or anything like that.
Will they like
Mhm.
just see us talking or will they pop up with their own like
I
screen?
think they'll just see us talking. I don't think that they can pop up because we're
Okay.
like we panelist on this. So like they won't just be able to pop up or even like comment unless like I can see their comments and stuff, but I don't know that you all can.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mhm.
So meetings have gotten canceled and then also I haven't been here for all of them. So can we just reconvene on like where we are right now? Like what is the last thing that you guys did?
Last week, Olivia, Caroline, and I, Sabrina, you couldn't come, right? Yes. We went over kind of themes from survey questions, those codings.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So then the last time that you guys met with Olivia, did you talk about themes from there?
Yeah, like we kind of picked them out and she put them on a document. I think that I assume was shared with us in that folder.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. So what, like, I kind of want to start out. So we have, Daniel, we have one more meeting before we present.
Yes.
Is-
Let's see. Who else?
So we're presenting on the 17th, correct?
Yes.
And are we going to meet next Friday too?
Do you know, Margaret Ann, if your thing is being
Yes, so it got postponed until next Friday, so we can meet. It just can't be from 12 to 3.
Okay. Do you all go to school on Wednesdays, or is it still no school on Wednesdays?
Yes, we do. Well, some of us do, but yeah.
Okay. So Friday would be a better day, is what you're saying?
Yes, like either later in the afternoon or in the morning.
And then okay, so later in the afternoon or the morning of Friday. Okay. Is there a time right now that works for people that are here?
I don't believe I have anything going on other than that senior thing, so.
But yeah, next Friday we have like a senior celebration thing from 12 to 3.
Mhm.
So is that in person? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is in person.
Okay.
And there's like a orchestra thing from 3 to 4.
Okay.
So maybe the morning
Sounds like the morning.
would
Mhm.
work better. Yeah.
Like 10:30 or something would be fine with me.
Olivia? Is
Yeah,
that-
me too.
Yeah, that's for next Friday.
Yes, next Friday at potentially 10:30.
Okay, yeah, that should work for me. What time is the presentation on the 17th? Because I have an AP exam from like 12 to 4-ish, I think.
Okay, I think it should be after that. It'll be during city council, so it should be closer to like 6:30.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely be out of it by then. Thank you.
Okay, 10:30 on the day before I get married.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Where are you guys having the wedding?
At Common House, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really cool space.
That'll be awesome. That's so exciting. I'm sorry, remind me of your fiance's name.
Rachel.
Rachel. I had Rachel in college. It was like preventing sexual assault on college campuses. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then someone told me like, yeah, she's like engaged to Daniel or she's dating Daniel. And they were like, I saw them out together holding hands.
Oh.
Felt like we were in high school and like our teachers were dating. But that's very exciting. Congratulations.
Really nice. Thank you. Oh yeah, so we have, so youth council meeting 10:30 a.m. on the 14th. And yeah, okay.
Wait, when is the presentation?
The 17th, Monday the 17th.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. Sorry. Yeah.
And it should, I'm gonna check to make sure the
And then Daniel, do you know how long our block of time is?
Well, let me just see. Oh, okay. Sorry, I saw youth council meeting and I was like, what? But then that was us today, right now. It looks like, Okay, so city council starts at 6:30 and the agenda hasn't been published yet. So once the agenda is published, I'll let you all know exactly when our time would be.
Okay. So what I'm thinking is that today we kind of make a plan as to what the presentation is going to look like, who's going to do what, kind of go over each section and like think about what we kind of give. I'll agree on like a couple bullet points that are going to get covered, like the top, like in under that topic. And then everyone will take a section, or like two people will take two sections, if that makes sense, and work on those two sections together so that like there's collaboration, but also like divide and conquer. That sound good? Okay. So did you guys look at this, like what this example presentation of Dr. Dickerson's kind of looks like? So that's like it's in the, I'll drop a link. Maybe. Download, whatever. I'll just screen share.
Yeah.
I love technology. Okay. Share.
I was in an interview yesterday, not me interviewing, but us interviewing someone else. And they like annotated on a screen share as like a way to like have an activity where we could participate. And it was really cool. I didn't know that was even a possibility, but clearly there's things I didn't know.
Yeah, I did Hughes Connected facilitation last semester, and so I learned how to do everything on Zoom. Like, I feel like I never have to go back to the real world if I want to. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Basically, like this is kind of to get an idea of like the sections, and then I think that ours will probably have some more like soft like portions to it, whereas this is strictly like Dr. Dickerson's like research, and we are going to be talking a little bit more about like recommendations and like, you know, contextualizing what we've like found out from the surveys and stuff. So we will have a background. We won't have a theoretical framework. Methods will be like interviews and, you know, the survey, our results, which will be like looking at the themes. And then conclusion will be like a conclusion / recommendations / like what does this mean for Charlottesville type of thing. Okay, so what I'm thinking is we make a shared doc. Would you guys prefer a doc that like kind of outlines the presentation, or just going into the presentation and just start making sections and like typing notes?
I feel like
you go ahead, Sabrina.
I don't know if that's what you're going to say, just because like we might want to organize the actual thing differently. And if we already have information on it, it can be a little confusing if we decide to change the format. So I think like starting on a doc would be best.
Sounds good. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so we're before the city council actual meeting. So it looks like, okay, so we probably will be closer to 5, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so there's 4 presentations over an hour and a half. That's 90 minutes. Like 20 minutes-ish.
You have a college
15,
degree?
20.
I was kidding.
My degree is not in anything related to math.
Yeah.
I haven't had to take a single math class. Actually, I had to take statistics, and that's it in college. Okay, so youth council. Okay, I'll make a document and share, create and share.
So for you, Olivia, it looks like it'll be like right after your exam, if your brain's not too fried.
That sounds good. I'll be able to make it. I will try my best to not like fall asleep, but I probably won't because this is really interesting.
Okay.
What's the AP exam on?
Stats, which I am not prepared for at all. But I got a couple of weeks, which is good.
Yeah.
I never took statistics in high school, and I wish I had, because I got to statistics in college and was like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah, it's really interesting, but it's so weird. And like I kind of had it for a little bit, and now it's just like there's so many formulas. But yeah, we'll see.
Oh, panelists. Okay. Okay, I've shared the outline, so we'll do bold, background, methods, results.
Is this in like the shared folder too? You can like copy it into the.
Yeah.
We can do that later.
Yeah, I can do it later because we have like our background, like or behind the scenes documents that we share with each other folder.
Oh.
And then we have the ones we share with you. And I don't know that I have that folder.
Okay. Not a problem. I was just wondering like for later.
Okay. Yeah, I'll throw this in there. Results, like conclusion and recommendations. How do you guys feel about like those 4 sections?
Good.
Okay. Is there anyone who's like, I'm just going to open up the floor to like, let's talk about what background information we want and what we want that to look like. And if someone could volunteer to like take notes, that would be great. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So isn't that your job anyway?
Yeah.
Remember, you were like the, what's it called?
I put
Secretary or something?
secretary in my college application.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about this, so we should have plenty of content. But what do you guys like? I guess a good discussion question to start us off would be like, what is our problem? Like, what's the problem that we identified?
Well, I think Sabrina had it first. So like half effectively like of youth council went to public schools, and then the other half went to various private schools for middle school or more schooling. And like we were thinking about, oh, what are things that we don't like about Charlottesville? And then, or things that we think can be improved. And I remember, yeah, Sabrina said, like, I think the public middle schools could be better or could be perceived better. So
Yeah. So like the reason, like we drew attention to it because a bunch of people leave to go to private schools during middle school. So then like, what does that reflect about the public schools themselves? Why people feel like they need to leave? So like that would be the issue.
And then like, how much do you guys want to like contextualize in terms of like the like the history of Walker and Buford? Like how much do you guys want to talk about like your like, you know, like in like I mean really this goes all like it goes all the way to the top. It goes all the way back like to like segregation.
Mhm.
And like the only reason that Charlottesville has so many private schools is because people didn't want to send their kids to integrated schools. So like it's up to you guys however much you want to include that. Like it's your presentation. I think that it would be like remiss to like not bring it up. I think but like it's how much do you guys want to talk about it? Like did it really come out in our results that like that was a huge like factor of it, you know, like in like identifying coded language that people used, you know, like
I feel like it did come through. Like when I was coding my interview, like the teacher talked a lot about how the pattern that she noticed was that all white students went to the private schools. So, I mean, that directly correlates with what we're talking about with how it goes all the way back to segregation. So I think that is very vital to include in our backgrounds. And because we also talked about that before we even decided what to do. That was like a huge reason why we chose to do it, because it draws into the racism in Charlottesville's past.
And Margaret Ann, you sent that article that was really helpful and
yeah, we talked about that a bit last time. Caroline found it like towards the end of the article, it has one thing where it says exactly what we're saying really explicitly. My mom had sent it to me and I was like, whoa, this is kind of exactly what we need, because it was an article from the month of April from Charlottesville Tomorrow. And that article also related to my interview, because Mr. Wilkerson kept going on about how having more than 2 middle schools would be great. And that was all about the redistricting plan and stuff. So if somebody wants to pull that up and find, it's like it talked about directly how like, oh yes, the white kids go to the public, they're like the private schools because they are better than the public ones. I think it was towards the end. That would be good if we could have a quote like that in there.
I can pull that up and find the quote.
I got it.
Thank you. And then Kennedy, I think I am a little uncertain on what all to include in this background part. I'm sorry to make you repeat anything, but
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Like just in general, like what is?
Yeah, kind of like, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So basically it's just kind of like if you, for like a true research project, it would be like obviously it would just be way more extensive if you're like some college professor or whatever. But it's essentially like your introduction, like why did we like choose this topic? Like what do you need to know that we know already in order to understand why we chose it? Like understand why it's important, like, you know, like just kind of like it's your problem identification. So like looking at like basically the way our project was set up, we identified a problem and then we asked a research question, right? So we are going to start out our background with our explaining the problem, and then we're going to move into like basically the conclusion of the background portion will be our research question that we came up with. So this is the part where you try and like tell city council, like, this is why it's a problem and this is the problem we identified, and like, etc. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's kind of like getting them invested in the rest of the presentation before we get into like, this number of people said blah, blah, blah. And then they just like, the lights go off. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that helpful? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yes, thank you very much.
So I have the research question somewhere and we'll put that into the end. Is there anything else that anyone wants included in the background? Like,
I mean, I think it's a real I think that like I remember what Sabrina said it really eloquently, I think from what her mom had said and stuff, it's a real problem when the wealthy students and the wealthy parents that are more likely to be invested leave public schools because they have resources that are really beneficial to the community. And they're leaving for a perceived reason that isn't necessarily true when it comes down to it. So I think that's the issue, is that our resourced parents and families are giving their money and their time and their energy elsewhere. And it's also making the kids that get left behind at the public school feel inadequate in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And also I think we can talk about, like, I can even pull up this part, like the like kind of, if I can find it, the breakdown of like, what year does Buford and Walker start fifth grade?
Yes.
So like fourth grade, this is the demographics of the class. Fifth grade, this is the demographics of the class. And just kind of track it a little bit and kind of talk about that. And then also like, if we want to bring this up, like there's like some statistic that's like your like grades trend upwards if like at least like, or it's grades trend down if the like poverty level is like 50% in a classroom, which is that's so high. Like that is so high that like it's not actually like a reality. Their fear is not reality in Charlottesville public schools. So like we can put that in there if you guys want. I'd have to find it again. But yeah, so then I'll paste in the research question when I find it. So moving on to methods.
Oh wait, I had a quick thing under background still. Like the thing about like the reason Charlottesville has so many private schools, like I definitely think it is interesting that Charlottesville has so many private schools, but like do we have a direct connection between that's why? Because when I just like look up a few of the schools, it seems like Covenant was founded in 1985, Village was founded in 1995, Peabody was founded in the 90s. Like, I don't know if we can make a direct connection. I don't want people to like, yeah, I don't know. I was just curious if we had like a study or something.
Yeah. It's just been like, I just think it's like, no, it's like, the words are trying to come to me and they're not. Basically, it's like Charlottesville is like just notorious for like not wanting to integrate. And it was a problem throughout Virginia that like private schools really only started in the first place because of integration. Like they would have what they would call like segregation academies where they would send their white students. So that's kind of why private schools like started in the first place, even though those schools might have come after that.
I think sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, like inside the
probably
article,
know more than I do.
how in 1988 was like the year that the two schools opened, the Walker Upper Elementary and Buford Middle School. So that does correlate in the timeline of what you were talking about, Caroline. And so I think that it's after integration, but the thing is that even after integration, most of the students that were white went to Walker and most of the students that were Black went to Buford. And so the parents were okay because like they still were separated. But then like when they put the schools together and everyone had to start going to the same school in 5th grade, that's when you get your village schools and places like that. Yeah,
thank you. And on the like demographics thing, I just think it also is worth noting that like Clark, I don't remember, like there is like a segregation within the elementary schools too. I think it's like Venable, Greenbrier, and Burnley Moran, and then Johnston, Jacksonville, and Clark. Yeah. I just remember like looking up and seeing like it's pretty insane how segregated they are. So like that's definitely worth considering when we look at the demographics of the middle school class too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll also be interesting because we've also talked to people like when we were doing the studies, the like interviews with kids inside of the schools in high school, and we were asking them where they went to school, and a lot of them, if they did go to, Venable or Burnley Moran or whatever, they oftentimes would then go into like private school after that. It's more likely than people that were at Johnson, Jackson Bio, or Clark.
Yeah.
On the note of demographics, would it be like worthwhile to get some demographics from some of the private middle schools around the area just to like compare?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a totally reliable source, but when I looked up village school demographics, it's like 93% white. So that is definitely worth, like, it was like some semi-sketchy website, but it sounds right. So that's worth verifying, but like, yeah, definitely. I think those statistics are really like prove the point for us.
Yeah. I know
Um,
Tampa has their demographics like on their website, so I assume other schools like Stab and Covenant might as well.
Yeah, I think for the demographics for for the private middle schools, I think we should focus on the middle schools that say they offer something else, like something in addition. So Peabody is like, if your kid's really smart, send them there. Village is all girls, and Tandem is like the Friends school and all that. So I think, in my opinion, those are the schools that we should focus on, because Stab and Covenant, I think those are just very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of it.
No, that makes sense. And especially because
Well,
of the,
Covenant kind of has like the religious
yeah,
That's it.
aspect to it as well.
And Stab is like
I would say
boarding
Stab is the one that's
also.
like,
Stab
yeah.
like has a like, because I was just looking at their website while I was coding my interview, and like they have this whole thing about like how a lot of their students are international because it's a boarding school also. So I don't know if like when they say like they have all these like students that aren't like white American, it's like,
Yeah,
they
Stab
just-
like broadcasts itself as an international school, but I don't know. I mean, the majority of every class like go there as a day school. So, but like, yes, I understand what you're saying. I've met several of the people that go there, and it's funny because they think of it as a boarding school, and I'm like, no.
Okay, so should we like delegate who's gonna figure out like the exact demographics of each thing? Because we do only have one meeting left. And I thought that was gonna be like the practice one, right?
yeah.
So we should probably be ready.
You all are so smart. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, we should delegate who. So the schools that we're looking at, especially for schools that are specific, you were saying like specific demographics. I think like village schools are a really good example because they only do fifth through 8th grade.
Yeah, it's 5th through 8th.
Yeah, and there again, it's all women, yes, but it's also 93. Which like again, from the people that wrote inside of their thing, they were like, most of them said like it's 100% white.
Yeah, I remember one of my teachers saying to my best friend who went to Clark, "Oh my gosh, you're the first kid we've ever had from Clark." It's like, well, you've been here for 25 years and you've never had a kid from Clark before.
That's really funny.
Yeah, but if we find out stuff like that, so anyway, so we have village. Did we want to do the field school? I don't know if they have their demographics anywhere.
My brother went there for middle school, so I can like ask. My mom might be able to find it, so I can look into that.
So the village, the field school, and Tandem. Those are 3 schools we want to look at.
Do we want to do Peabody because they don't have? Do they have a high school?
No, it's 5th through 8th.
Gotcha.
Wait, can you say who's doing what again, and I'll write it down real quick.
I can look into field, and I can look into other schools as well. Like I can look into Tandem.
Okay, so we'll have Olivia do the field school, village school, Peabody, and Tandem.
Okay.
And I can look at the Walker Beeford. I can look at public schools. Okay. So, also Dr. Dickerson, sorry, you came in the middle of this very intense discussion. But I dropped the link again in the chat for the document that we're outlining the presentation on. But basically today we're gonna go through discuss each section, assign who's gonna like flush it out, and then so then that'll be done when we meet next Friday.
Yep, that's a great plan. Just on the point about the demographics for other schools, was that something that we are going to present like during the presentation, or like just something? I don't know. I was just trying to figure out like what we were talking about since I came in late.
Yeah. Sorry, Daniel, you can go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that it was because they were trying to figure out like the background information.
Gotcha. Okay.
Why this is important.
Yeah. Gotcha. That makes sense.
So then methods. I am gonna give this to you guys to stumble through or not stumble through, and we can talk about it. But I want you guys to take a shot at that, at describing how we did our like methods.
I mean, we did like surveys and the survey and then interviews was like our 2
should we
big
include the
things.
process of like our research question in this or not?
the research. So I pasted the research question at the bottom because it kind of came in multiple parts. So we can kind of like put that at the end of the background, right?
Okay.
It'll be the transition from the background to the methods.
Okay. Then yeah, we created a survey that, what did it do? That gathered information about responders, like demographics and their overall feelings. That's a bad word for it, but like their reflections on their middle school experience and how it's prepared them for high school. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, I think that was a great summary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we want to have information about like how many people took the survey.
Mhm.
Like how it was distributed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it might be good. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it might be good to note that like the way that we distributed it was mostly like people who we know or who follow us on Instagram, which definitely like could put a slight skew on what we saw.
Yeah, and I mean the results showed that it was like mostly white people who answered the survey, so it'll speak for itself too when we talk about that.
Would go under a section at the very end called limitations.
Okay, yeah, so we had like 70, 75.
I think it was 76.
I'm looking it
if I
up.
remember off my head, but
Responses. We moved on to interviews where each council member interviewed one adult that has some one or two adults that have some connection to this field and this kind of topic. This included parents, teachers, guidance counselors.
well, I don't know if anybody else did a parent, but the parents that I was going to interview told me they were actually uncomfortable with it, so I was only able to do.
Oh, okay, I'll take
So
that
I'm
out.
not exactly sure if we got a parent.
Okay.
If anybody
Yeah,
else did.
so basically what we'll do is we'll assign like, if we're gonna do quotes or talk about like who we interviewed, it'll be like interviewee 1, teacher,
Mhm.
like interviewee 2, guidance counselor, and then you can just refer to them as that. Like, so then there's not identifying information unless the like person's like race or gender or like sexual orientation, etc., is like extremely relevant to their response, in which like I don't think that that's really an identifier, like an identifying piece of information to somebody. Like you can't figure out who they are just because they're black or white, you know? So that'll be like no big deal.
Carolyn, should I put community members? Because I'm thinking about Sherry Craft or school board member.
I mean, we could say school board member. That definitely like narrows down who it is, but I think it is interesting.
Yeah.
Then like relevant to what she was saying.
You could put like school community leader.
Okay.
Because that's kind of more anonymous. And that could be like, you know, a parent who's just really involved, like the PTA president or whatever. Could be a school board member. It could be like a admin, you know, like it's kind of ambiguous.
And then what did we do? We coded the results from the interviews and the surveys for themes and patterns about the responses. Thank you, Daniel. And is that it? Kennedy, do you feel like that's expansive enough?
Yeah, I think so. And then under results, you'll go into like what those themes and patterns were.
Mm-hmm.
How many interviews were there? Does anyone remember, like right off the top of their head?
Probably 4 is my guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can go like whenever whoever actually does methods can go a little more into detail about like what types of like like the survey, well, just a little more detail on the survey, not much, but being like, we had X free response questions, X like,
Okay.
Multiple choice or whatever.
Dr. Dickerson, it says, I don't know if you're the one typing this.
I was, probably.
Okay, yeah, it says you're an anonymous shrew. I always find it
Ooh.
Okay, so who wants to take a stab at what the coding themes results were from? We can do, I think it would be good to do like a section on the survey free response questions. I don't think that there will be time to go question by question, just because it's only like a 15-minute presentation. So just kind of big picture, like survey response themes, and then we can do like interview response themes. And the interviews could be a little more detailed, like, interviewer 1 expressed XYZ, interviewer 2 XYZ, and just kind of go through it like that.
I feel like for those who were at the meeting the last week, I feel like Olivia had like a document where we were kind of already starting to do some of that. So maybe we could pull some of that over to the results. It might be a little more specific, Kennedy, than what you're thinking of, but that might be a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. I tried to find that while I was sitting here because I just found out it existed and I could not find it. So if someone has it and wants to send it in the chat.
I got it.
Great. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is actually very good. It's not as specific as I remember our discussions being, which is probably for the best.
I know that I wasn't here last week, so I didn't really get to talk about my interview, but it really just lined up with what we were saying. Like, mostly white kids are going to, like, she's writing recommendations for mostly white students. Like, that was like the biggest point from my interview.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that with the time that we have left, whoever is doing the results section can kind of take this and do some magic and put it into some slides, and then obviously we'll go over it again. But do you guys want to go through this and talk about it, or does my recommendation sound good? Thoughts?
For me, what you said sounds good, Kennedy, because I think that what I feel most uncertain about is the last part with conclusion and recommendations. So I think we should spend our time on that.
Okay. So some of the like results, like synthesizing will lead into like the conclusions. So we can like fill in some of those blanks once that part is done. But like using what you guys learned from the interviews, what you learned from the survey responses and the themes, and like what like some of the research done around it, like what do you feel your conclusions, like the answers to like the questions at the bottom, our research questions, like how would you answer that now, knowing all of that?
I think what Mr. Wilkerson I think really tried to impart on me is that Charlottesville has really excellent public schools. They're ranked some of the best in the state, and that's along with Northern Virginia and Richmond, so that's a big deal. But the wealthy parents are, and even not the wealthy parents are still routinely pulling their kids out and then putting them back in. And it's for the most part based on a false reputation.
Yeah, Sherry she described the schools as chaotic, like Buford more than Walker, as like chaotic compared to the like the impression is that they're chaotic compared to the other public schools. But she was like super excited about the idea of giving Walker sixth grade, giving Buford sixth grade and moving fifth grade back to the elementary schools. So I think if we want to, like, in the conclusions area, kind of like more like a recommendation, like I know that's a big thing to recommend, and like I think the funding kind of went out the window with COVID, but like I definitely think that will kind of change the whole impression of what the schools are.
Yeah, I like that. Also in the conclusion portion, with that article, like, you know, I think it wouldn't be inappropriate to say, like, we know that whoever's coming in to, what is it, remaking middle school, you know, saying like, we are going to share this with them. Like, this is how we hope that you as city council supports what remaking middle school tries to do. You know, like, and this is, you know, what we have found in our research, and this is what we would like you to, you know, with your influence, do. I want to also, with saying that, the only control that city council has over public schools in Charlottesville is their budget. Other than that, the school board is a completely different legal entity. So like, to the extent that Remaking Middle Schools is probably going to host community meetings to talk about what they want Buford and Walker and middle school in Charlottesville to look like, and the city council members are going to be on that. So like, that's kind of the role that they will have, just so you know that going into like making recommendations to them, and like what you think that they should emphasize with remaking middle school.
Okay.
And then I think, so the questions at the bottom are going to be at the end of the background. I think they should come back up at the end of the presentation, and you should answer them for city council. So like, how would you, like, I think that we have an answer here. Whoever does the conclusion and recommendations can make it sound pretty. Did we like, the answer to this question could be, we didn't really get that much of a view on it, or we did. Like, so how do you guys think that the students leaving impacts both those students who leave and those students who stay?
I think there were some survey responses that talked about students who stayed who felt behind or felt like they were less than students who came back from private schools. I'm not really sure if we had specifics about what the impact was on people who leave, because most of the people in the responses we got were like the negative ones for people who stayed. So I'm thinking you talk about people who stayed, but I don't know exactly about people who left or left.
I definitely agree with like the feeling of like people feeling left behind, because I knew that a lot of the people in my village school class had actually gone to Walker for fifth grade, and then like their parents were like, we don't like this, and moved them, or they had like an older sibling who had gone to Walker or Buford, had a bad experience, and like they get pulled out. So then that like definitely contributes to like, it's not just people leaving in fifth grade, it's like kind of throughout the whole 4 years.
Yeah. And I think there was another response, like the socially acclimated, like those who felt prepared socially went to Buford. And I definitely think that's important to mention.
Maybe like academically, people who stayed felt like they were maybe behind, but socially they felt like they were ahead. And then like vice versa. So what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then I don't know, how well do you guys feel like you can answer this question?
I mean, I feel like it affects everybody who goes, or I mean, like negatively everybody who goes to Buford, because what we talked about in the beginning is that like those resources aren't being put into the public schools, and that affects everybody who goes to the public schools. But I don't know, like, if that's what that question's asking.
I think it affects the students that stay in the public schools far more negatively than it affects those in the private schools. I think there may be an not odd kid, but like an uncommon kid who in one of the private schools who wishes that they had stayed at the public schools. I've met somebody who thinks that, but I think for the most part, it is hurting the people who stay with the city public schools.
Yeah, and I think COVID is like a really good example of that because all the private schools went back immediately. They didn't have to worry about their kids not being able to get transportation because it was a given that the parents would be able to do that. Like they only had to deal with like 80 people and the teachers instead of 4,000 people and the teachers and the custodians and the cafeteria workers. So like I think COVID is a really good example of that effect.
I agree.
That's another thing. Are we going to talk about like COVID at all?
I don't know.
Something because it changes things a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like we're talking about this as if like pre-COVID kind of. Because I mean, this has been an issue for a while, but just like Caroline said,
Yeah.
kind of they're even at more of an advantage.
Yeah, I think we can definitely emphasize that latter a bit. But I mean, yeah, I think that I don't think that we should like waste our. I don't know. I don't really know like the specifics of what I'm trying to say, so I'm not going to say it because still, yeah. But yes.
I think that it would be beneficial to talk about it at the end because you say, look, there's this problem and it's been going on for a very long time and it only got worse like everything else with the pandemic. So I think that that's like where that comes in. Do you okay, cool. And then I think that the exploring timeline of interventions was more like a note to ourselves, but I think that that is kind of addressed by saying like, we have a great opportunity here to like to remedy this problem with remaking middle schools coming in. So like, don't mess it up. And then
Just to remaking middle school, can you like recap that just in like a sentence or two? Was that something we talked about today?
I think it was that article.
Okay.
Right? Like, that's how everyone knows
Yeah.
what it is, right? Okay. Because I like youth, like the Youth Action Lab, like our team has talked about it. For all of your knowledge, we knew like that they were interested in Buford, but then the article came out and Margaret Ann sent it to everyone. So everyone knows what that is, correct?
Okay, I thought you were talking about something that I missed today. Thank you.
No.
We talked about this. Okay.
And we had talked about the article earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So then how does the history continue to impact the situation? We've talked about this today. If you guys want to talk about it in like the conclusion and recommendations, I definitely think that it can be brought back up there. It's also addressed in the background, so it just kind of depends on the narrative, like portion of the conclusion and recommendations that you guys want to tell. Thoughts on that? Okay, we can also like look at what the conclusion and recommendations look like next week. And like if the person who's working on that section is like, this would be remiss to not add to it, like obviously add it. And then we can always look at it next week and figure out how we want that to work in. So does anyone have any strong feelings towards doing one section or another?
I kind of want to do like the methods.
Okay. I'll do conclusion.
And also like, are we gonna like in our independent time, right, on this doc and just kind of like erase what everybody else said and put it in like a more concise formed thing? Or are we putting it on the template? Yes, we're doing, okay. I'm seeing head nods, so I think that's what we're doing.
Wait, can you repeat that?
I was saying, like, are we, because there's a lot of bullet points and a lot of little notes, like, in our independent time, are we, like, kind of deleting those and making it into, like, a more concise thing that we'd put on the template? Or are we straight putting it on the template?
Dr. Dickerson, do you know if there's a template made for them to put the presentation on?
Not that I know of. Daniel, is there, are there any like requirements for presentations or suggestions or anything?
Gotcha. So basically there is like what you all have, I'll be able to put together. I've made a memo that kind of has like this information on it. And so I will, I'll look and see exactly what like I need to send over to them. But yeah, but it likely will just be like a presentation or like just the PowerPoint. Not what you know what I'm talking about.
So we need to make a PowerPoint.
I mean, I don't know if you need to make a full PowerPoint or if you all would like to just have it like how Dr. Dickerson did when you have the poster presentation. It's just kind of all the information is there at once. That's up to you all. I don't know if there's, which one would you all like to do?
It's a virtual meeting still, right?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Okay, I would suggest PowerPoint. Then the poster can be really, really hard to read. Like,
I feel like it's also more impactful too. Like we're like background, click the slide, method, click the slide. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Daniel, did we have a final presentation time?
So the Brian Wheeler gave us, he said our presentation is second to last, and the last presentation, like that part of the meeting ends at 5:30. So I'm assuming 4:30 we should probably be like on the Zoom and ready to present.
Okay, I feel like the results are much bigger than the one bullet point. So I
also have summaries that I can send you all of the survey results.
Okay, that would be great too. So Olivia and Caroline, what are your feelings towards, I can do limitations, don't worry about that. So like results or background?
Would it be okay if I did background, if that's all right with you, Caroline?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I can do that. Results, whatever. Yes, I can do the one that hasn't been taken.
Okay, I made the presentation in the shared folder with you all. So have at it this week. I am still working virtually, so if you all want to set up a time to like get me to help you or look at it or talk or just talk through what you are thinking, just email me. I'm like very, very flexible except for like Monday. So okay. I am at your disposal. Does anyone have any questions before we conclude?
I don't.
Are we good?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, Kennedy, you're finding the demographics for the public schools. Is that gonna go in the background section with Olivia's stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Dickerson, we decided, so I texted Olivia, she can't make it Friday at 10:30, which I told her not to worry about. I'll give her the recap and like, etc. And then Dr. Dickerson, can you make it Friday at 10:30? If not, obviously I'm comfortable like by myself. I just want to let you know that that's what we decided on.
So you're saying next Friday at 10:30 is the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I should be able to make it. I think I have something at 11, so I might have to leave early, but I could like come for a little bit.
Olivia said she might be able to make the last half. So.
Okay.
But there's like a senior thing at Charlottesville from 12 to 3.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's coming to the end.
And I have a chiropractor appointment at 9:30, so I think I should be here just in time. But if I'm a few minutes late, that's fine.
Okay. Sounds good. Cool.
Everyone feel good? Feel prepared?
Yes.
At least for next week.
I think this was much needed.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.